is not only the best basketball player, but he's the most exciting basketball player to ever play.
Fires away, puts it in. 51 for Jayson Tatum.
The Big Three NBA podcast is powered by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.
Welcome to another edition, the All-Star Break edition of the Big Three NBA podcast. I'm your host, Sherrod Blakely, and today we have one of my good friends, a great beat writer. He's been in the game for a minute, but still has his youthfulness. A little scruffy today, but he's still a young fella. Vincent Goodwill Jr. of Yahoo Sports. What's going on, V?
I just got a haircut. You saying I'm scruffy? I literally got a haircut to go to all. It's called a beard.
Yeah,
it's
you got the beard. See, me and Vinny go way back to when there was no beard. No matter how hard he tried, it wasn't coming in. Now look at you. Look at you, boy.
That's a long time. That's a long time ago.
It's been a minute. But the All-Star break has been here. It's been about a minute. Teams finished playing, and all the records and standings are set for the pre-All-Star break kind of reflection of the season. Celtics with the best overall record in the NBA. They've got a 6-game lead over Cleveland in the East. I think they're 4 games ahead of Minnesota for the best overall record. You covered a lot of games, a lot of teams this year, Vinny. What's your take on the Celtics, and what, from your perspective, makes them such a good team?
It is so odd to honestly, Sherrod, get a feel on the Celtics. I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you, because all the metrics and the numbers say that they are far and away the best team in the league. Far and away, let's say top 7 as far as their rotation. You put their top 7 up against anybody, and they're blowing everybody away. They're blowing away the Clippers. They're blowing away the Nuggets. They're blowing everybody away. And then they have these crazy games where they take 45 threes, hit 11 of them, and you're like, okay, y'all, can we get a counter punch today? Like that sort of thing. But when they're good, nobody's beating them. You know, like their B game probably beats everybody else's A- game, I would say. You know what I mean? So just the versatility, Sherrod, and the explosiveness. I think my doubts are going to look foolish in June if we come away and I'm in Boston sitting with y'all in Boston. Having some chowder, and it's game 2 of the finals. And I'm like, why didn't I see this coming? Because all the evidence says that they should be here, but it's those little nagging doubts that's preventing me from jumping the broom with the Celtics. How about that?
See, here's the thing, Vinny. You first of all, you have trust issues, which is another podcast for another day. We can get much deeper in detail with that, but you do have some trust issues. But I understand the place you're coming from with this team, because you feel like there's a part of you that doesn't want to get Charlie Brown, where you're running up, you're thinking about the nail it, and the next thing you know, you're flat on your back because they just pull, the ball right from underneath your feet and all that. So I get that. The one thing that has been a little bit surprising to me, and maybe you can help me with this one, is that the Celtics, to your point, Vinny, they've had the best record for the majority of this season. They have shown themselves from a wins and loss perspective, from a analytics data perspective, that they're that team that everyone is gunning for. And typically, when you have that type of consistency, your best player is automatically defaulted into the top 5 conversation for league MVP. And yet I'm not really hearing and seeing and feeling that Jayson Tatum, even though his numbers are strong and he's clearly their best player, I'm not really getting the sense that he is, in the eyes of many, a top 5 league MVP candidate. I'm just curious, Vinny. I mean, why do you think that is? Why do you think he hasn't gotten to that level, even though from a stats standpoint, he kind of should be in that conversation, I would think.
You know what it is, Sherrod? I think part of it is people have last season stuck in their heads. Because I felt like last year he had a case, especially early, especially before Joel Embiid came in and started doing 40-point games and everything else. He really had a strong case for MVP. I think I even wrote a story about it. And I think that was off of the NBA Finals. Right. And even though they underwhelmed in the NBA Finals, they got over that hump. So last year, the narrative was, or coming into this year, the narrative was, this is the team that got down 3-0 to the Miami Heat and blew a game 7 at the crib. There was going to be next to nothing that Jayson Tatum was going to be able to do from an individual standpoint, even though he got hurt early in that game 7, right, and he wasn't a big reason for that, for that collapse. He doesn't have the story right now. It's not about the game. If you think about it, Nikola Jokic, MVP of the finals, finally get over the hump. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's the hot name and the winner in win shares per 48 minutes, but he's the guy that's been coming. People have seen him rising for the past few years. Kawhi Leonard, who's on my ballot, he's got a comeback story of sorts. Luka Doncic is always there because he's got the numbers, so it leaves someone like Tatum kind of on the outside looking in a way.
And
I think that's
Benny, you didn't even mention last year's MVP Joel Embiid, who he's hurt, but still, when he's been healthy, he's in the conversation too.
Yeah, so part of it is it's so much top-heavy talent. The other part of it is, I guarantee you, Sherrod, if the Celtics make it to the finals this year, they don't even have to win. If they make it to the finals this year, Jayson Tatum will automatically be vaulted to MVP conversation next year. I just think it's the taste in people's mouths. And here's the crazy part, Sherrod. We've gotten used to Jayson Tatum. It's almost like the clown at the, not the clown, but the performer at the party doing the magic tricks. All right, you done enough magic tricks. What else you got? You know what I mean? Right, at some point, kids get bored, and we've gotten bored with Jayson Tatum, even though we haven't awarded him anything. And I think that's the crazy part.
Yeah, and you look at the fact that this is his 5th All-Star game, and the dude is 25. You got some cats in the Hall of Fame who are at that point in terms of number of All-Star appearances, and this dude has got a good decade left in him to put in some work. It's interesting that you raise that point, because he's like that comfortable meal that you can get at the restaurant anytime that you know it's going to be good. You don't even got to like ask them to put a little hot sauce on this or make a little extra. You just say, give me that, and you know it's going to be good. And
salmon and mashed potatoes, baby. It's going to be filling. It's going to be healthy. It's going to be good for you. It's going to be good to you.
Right.
That's all.
Right. And it don't matter who comes to the restaurant, when they order that, they all going to like it. It ain't going to hit them all the same, but they all going to like it. But it gets me to thinking about something else that's I've been liking all season, and things are starting to come together for them. The Minnesota Timberwolves. They were the team, and I think I speak for most of us who follow the NBA. We were waiting for the shoe to drop. We were waiting for them to hit that 4, 5, 6, 7 game losing streak, 8 out of 10 lose, 10 out of 14, and then they go from being top dog to middle of the pack, and it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. And Anthony Edwards obviously is a big part of that team's success. But I'm just curious, Vinny. I mean, are they the team that you're looking to come out of the West? Who are some of the teams? Because it seems like there's a lot of teams that can make a case for, we're going to be the best team to come out of the West. Who are you looking at as we hit the post-All-Star break to kind of emerge as that team out West?
It's funny, Sherrod. We talk way more about teams at the bottom of the West playoff picture than the teams at the top.
Yeah,
we talk about the play-ins.
Yeah.
We talk about the Lakers. We talk about Golden State. We talk about Phoenix. We talk about those teams, and 2 of those teams, at least 2 of those teams, we playing each other for the right to play maybe the Minnesota Timberwolves or the Denver Nuggets or whomever winds up being in that first seed. I, Sherrod, have a hard time trusting a team that has never won a playoff series to bounce all the way to the finals. You got to have some real heartbreak. You got to have some real sweat equity in the playoffs. For me, the basketball I grew up watching, the basketball that we're seeing now, you got to have that.
Yeah.
And part of it is, Sherrod, do we just not trust Karl Anthony Towns? Is that what it is? We just don't trust Karl Towns?
I might be the president. Certainly, I'm on the executive board of the I Don't Trust Karl Towns fan club. I love the talent. It's just that, like you, I have trust issues with that particular player because I look at the talent, I look at the ability, and then I look at the intangible that we don't talk enough about, which is leadership. He is not that dude. That's why when Anthony Edwards kind of went into takeover mode of the franchise, Karl was not pushing back on that. He wasn't tripping. It's just like, look, recognize that I get buckets, I get rebounds, I'm a good player. I'm just not a good player to lead this team.
And your best player sometimes, not that he is the best player, he might be the 3rd best player, to be perfectly honest, behind Rudy and Ant-Man. You don't need your best player to be your leader. That's not always the case.
Right.
But your most talented player, excuse me, your most talented player has to do things besides score. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you said, the intangibles. A 7-footer needs to be able to protect the rim. Like stuff like that. That's what gives me trust issues with Karl Towns. But to your original question, Are we just saying that the Denver Nuggets are going to be the team that comes out of the West because we don't see anybody else beating that big dude for 4 games? Because that's what you know what I mean?
I've been thinking about that, and I don't know if there's a team that I feel confident / trust that could beat Denver 4 out of 7 games.
Not
I feel
not
like
to put it like this. Yeah,
Jokic is good enough to carry you to victory for 2 or 3, and there's going to be one player on that team that's going to have the game of their life who get them that 4th win. So I'm not.
yeah. Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray is going to give you one of those Mike Bibby 2002 games. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Where he just
Flashback. Way to show your knowledge of history, V. Okay. Bonus
I
points.
was in high school then. For those who
Using
don't
my
know, I was
class, you
not
get
covering the
bonus
league
points for
then.
that
I
one,
was in
V.
high
You might
school.
get some bonus points for throwing that one out there. Well done.
I went to the crates, but no, the Clippers are a team that because we all know Ty Lue and how great of a coach he is.
Mm-hmm.
If they're healthy, they're going to be a tough out. But they don't have anybody to guard that big dude. Like I don't trust Oklahoma City to win the playoff series because they haven't done it, and Minnesota's in the same boat.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say between the Clippers and Nuggets, which means I don't trust anybody in the Western Conference, to be perfectly honest.
This is a perfect year for, and again, it's one of the reasons why I think, Vinny, we're still talking about the Lakers, a team that could basically be literally getting the last ticket to get in the building and could wind up just being the king of the prom, because one, they've got guys who've been there, done that before. Two, no one has firmly cemented themselves as the team to beat out West. And number three, to your point, V, every team that wins a championship in some way, shape, or form has to go through some hardships to get that. Even when the Celtics won it in 08, and you say, well, they came together and got it all in one year. But that was after Paul Pierce spent more than a decade coming so close. That was when Kevin Garnett was inside the basketball Siberia, known as Minnesota. And that was when Ray was a great player, but no one really knew a whole lot about him because he's balling out of the Pacific Northwest before he came to Milwaukee. So those guys went through hardships individually so that when they collectively came together, they didn't need to go through any hardships because they've been there, done that. At that point, it was about winning that chip. But when you talk about Minnesota and that youth that they got, they collectively, they haven't done much in terms of hardship. And to the point where they've come close but didn't get there. They just sucked. That was their hardship. They weren't in a situation where, man, we should win this series. Nah. Every playoff series that Ant-Man has been a part of, they have been the lower seed. This is the first time they're actually going to have to go into the postseason theoretically with a little bit of pressure to win. Before they were just playing with house money. Now you coming in there big daddy with big checks, big pockets. How you going to handle that? Same thing.
I don't have concerns about Ant-Man.
Oh,
I have concerns about everybody else
around him. Mm-hmm. Oh, Ant-Man going ball.
Yeah, I got concerns about Karl Towns. Mm-hmm. I got concerns about our French 7-footer.
The fact that you got to take him off the court, you're going to have to take him off the court in certain matchups. I don't know of any other team that's in the top tier where one of their top 3 players, you automatically go into games knowing that you're going to have to get him off the floor because he does not match up well with any opponent that you play.
Or simply you have to count on the other 4 players to compensate for what Rudy doesn't do. Or basically, Rudy, you got to stay in the paint. So we got to work extra hard on these screens. We got to work extra hard on these switches to make sure that you can stay on the floor because he is so valuable at the rim. Mm-hmm. He is so valuable on both ends of the floor. I don't know in a 7-game series how that holds up. You got to have a masterful coaching staff to do that. And maybe Chris Finch is that guy. But until I see it, I ain't seen it.
Yeah. I mean, Chris Finch, he's done a good job this year. And I've been really critical of him because I didn't like the way he got the job, to be perfectly honest and keep it real. I haven't forgot about David Vanderpool. I have not forgotten about that. Will not let that go. That is always going to rub me the wrong way. But I give Chris props. He's done a really good job with this team. He deserves all the credit, all the praise that Minnesota is getting for how they're playing. And he's done an exceptional job leading that team. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's right, that's $150 if your bet wins. You can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel/Boston and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. When I look at out west, and you touched on him earlier, Ty Lue, I just don't feel Ty Lue gets the credit that he deserves as a coach. I mean, this Ty Lue is a really good coach. People forget about little things he's done even before he became a head coach that damn near saved. Like, remember when he was in Cleveland and my man that got fired,
Splat.
Yeah, he was trying to call a timeout, and when they didn't have any, and Ty Lue literally grabbed him, shielded him from the refs, and they were able to win that game, because if that call would have been made and he got the timeout, they would have lost the game. Little things,
and they would
like
have gone
that.
down 3-1. And they went down 3-1 in the series against Chicago. I was there. I was courtside that game, and I'm like, this clown's calling a timeout. No,
right.
Look, Sherrod, you know my theory on coaches. There's about 5 or 6 good ones, 5 or 6 bad ones, and a bunch of dudes in the middle.
Right.
Ty Lue and Eric Spoelstra are the 2 best coaches in basketball, and it ain't close.
Yeah.
And
I
Ty Lue might be actually better, theoretically. He might actually be better than Spo. He just hasn't gotten back to the finals since the LeBron James stuff.
I'm kind of leaning on Spo. I got my needle on Spo right now, but Ty, let's put it this way: if this team can get to the NBA Finals, I might put him and Spo in a bit of a toss-up. But Spo does so much with so little consistently. And again, Miami, no matter who they have on their roster, even if it's like a guy like Duncan Robinson, who's nothing but a jump shooter, he played with a little bit of edge for a jump shooter. The way he tried to get in Jaylen Brown.
That was spicy.
That was spicy.
That was spicy. I like that. It was spicy on both sides. He was like, "You're not like that." I was like,
right.
One of you dudes are fighters.
Nah. But the thing about Jaylen, Jaylen always makes me nervous, because I have this feeling that the one time he lets loose, he's gonna let loose decades of pent up frustration and anger that mess around and get him like suspended for like damn near half the season if you get into it. But he will no one will ever be like an Isaiah Stewart. Let's put it that way.
Wow, do we have to go there?
Listen, I love Stewart. I love me some.
And so do the Celtics. The Celtics love Stewie.
Yes, they do. They do.
Look, you got to have every great team has to have a crazy person.
You got to have one.
Look, and just because, here's my thing, Sherrod. Let me detour for a quick second. All right, Sherrod, if you're face to face and nose to nose with somebody, is that a sucker punch, or did you just get punched?
Right, or you just got punched, sucker. Maybe that's the sucker punch. You just got punched, sucker. Listen, man, Isaiah, say what you want about what happened in Phoenix, but man, look, I want that dude on my team. I want that, because here's the thing about it. And Vinny, we've been in the game long enough to know that the deeper you get into the playoffs, the grimier it gets. You need someone who you ain't got to worry about. If things go sideways and you just got to go all out, you ain't got to worry about them handling business. That's why the Celtics went out and got Xavier Tillman. I mean, he's 6'9", 260 every day, and he don't mind letting you know, I'm 6'9", 260 every day.
You need ruffians. You need some dudes who are unafraid to get their hands dirty. Right. As much as this league has turned into a pretty shooting exhibition, you ain't getting to June unless you got some dudes who are willing to get their elbows and willing to take a couple hits. I don't care where this game evolves into. If that part, look, Sherrod, the day I'll stop covering this league is the day those guys are no longer in it. Because I don't want to just see a bunch of Stephen Currys out there. Like, I need a mix of everything that the game has to offer.
Yeah. And as much as Steph Curry's, Klay Thompson's, Tatum's, and all them cats mean to the league, I needed Draymond Green. As crazy as he is, and as problematic as and as much as he does need a little bit of help, and he got some.
Problematic is the word. You said it. Problematic is the word.
The edge that he brings to the game. I need that. I absolutely need that because as great as this Golden State dynasty has been, it is not a dynasty without Draymond Green. I don't care what you say. Because the thing that we've learned about the NBA is if you've got a team full of great shooters and shot makers, you can go only so far. Remember all those teams that Don Nelson used to have back in the day? I love watching them play because they would get buckets. But then you get to the playoffs, they lose a series 4-2 because they're giving up layups left and right, or they have a stretch where they're not making shots and they have nothing to counterbalance that. They don't have anyone at edge, no one that can play defense. And the Draymond Greens, the Tillmans, the Isaiah Stewarts, they're not the best players in the world, but that's all right. They have certain skills and strengths that every team could benefit from, particularly when you get into the playoffs. Vinny, before we go any further, just wanted to make sure I give a shout out to our good friends at FanDuel, the official partner of the CLNS Media Group and a good friend of us here at the Big Three NBA podcast. Right now, they've got a special going. Go to FanDuel.com/Boston. And for new customers, you get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. That's FanDuel.com/Boston. And check them out. Benny, I wanted to talk to you about.
You got to pay them bills. I like it.
And you know this. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about just what are you expecting to see after the break? I mean, the Celtics have been the kind of the team everyone's chasing, but there's some other teams that are doing some good things. You got Cleveland, they've won like 9 of the last 10, so they're starting to come on a little bit. Things are still real tight out west. What are you expecting to see as we hit the home stretch here?
You know what? In the West, like everything is siloed. Like looking at the standings, they're the top 4 teams: OKC, the Clippers, Minnesota, and Denver. They're all separated by a game. And then you got the next cluster, which is New Orleans, Phoenix, and Sacramento. They're separated by like a game. And then you got like the Lakers and Dallas and all, you know what I mean? Like everything is so siloed. So it's individual races within that. It's going to be the battle for home court advantage. And do you want home court advantage? How bad do you want that first or second seed? Because if you get the first or second seed, Sherrod, you might have to see the Lakers, or you might have to see Stephen Curry. Do you want that stress in your life? Or do you want to get to that third seed? Well, you might have to see Kevin Durant. Like literally, there's no easy answer anyway. But out east, my question is going to be, where is Philadelphia going to land? Right. If Joel Embiid comes back this season after this surgery that they're calling a procedure and all this other nonsense, right? What if Philly falls to the play-in? If Philly falls to the play-in and they're on that Boston line, right? And we know Boston is their bully. But do you want to see a nothing to lose Joel Embiid in a playoff series?
You know what? Listen, you if you're the Celtics, you're not intimidated, afraid, or concerned about Philadelphia, but you don't want to see them right out the gate. You're cool with seeing them in the second round because by the time of the second round, you done lathered up, you got your stretch on, you ready to roll. And they're probably going to have a tough, hard-fought first-round series if you're seeing them in the second round. But to see them right out the gate, I don't think you want that smoke if you're Boston.
And here's the other part. They're going to have the top seed locked up for so long. As much as Cleveland is coming, right? Boston's not going to, pare it down. I don't think that's how Joe Mazzulla gets down, right?
Right.
But there's an intensity that you lose if you are 6 games up.
Yeah.
And you have to make sure everybody's healthy. And we got the Porzingis thing to worry about.
Right.
So you're not going to be playing high intensity level basketball probably for the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season. They're going to be that far ahead of everybody. And then you got to ramp it up in the first round of the playoffs, maybe to see Joel Embiid. Don't get me wrong. If you see Chicago or Atlanta or one of those other teams, you can ease your way into it.
That's like high intensity practice when you see them squads. That's not, it's officially a playoff game, but it's really more like kind of this is an intense practice that we're going to go through this week, fellas.
So yeah, you don't want to have to jump right into the deep end. As much as you have Joel Embiid's number and Joel Embiid has not shown up in the playoffs like he's supposed to, you don't want to be the person that he breaks the streak against.
No.
And because you are one of those teams, I think I looked up the numbers, Sherrod. When they win, they shoot 42 from 3. When they lose, they shoot 31. That's a wide variance for the Celtics in the playoffs when shooting does not always carry. It doesn't always travel.
Right.
You better, like, luckily for them, they got other things in their bag. But man, I wouldn't want to have that first round matchup.
Nah, you definitely don't want that. And Philly is definitely a team that there's a lot of concerns and question marks about not only where they're going to land, but just how they're going to get there. Who's going to be healthy enough to lead them? And is someone besides Maxey and Joel going to step up for them? But as much as I think there are legitimate questions about them, I think there are even more questions about the Milwaukee Bucks, who ever since they made the coaching switch, at the time they had the third best record in the NBA, they've gone 3-7 under Doc Rivers. How concerned are you about them getting it right? Because there's got to be a part of me that's thinking that A.G. Griffin looking back thinking like, get rid of this. This is what you get. This is what you get. This is what you get. Do you think they're going to figure it out, or do you think that this might be they may have issues going forward, not only in the regular season but also in the playoffs?
Figure it out to what degree are you asking? You know what I mean? Are you asking me?
Can they get to the NBA Finals?
They can. Do I see it? I'm not sure what I see when I see them. Now, the bad part about this is, yes, the 3-7 record with Doc, but there's no training camp. There's no way for him to come in and really implement his sets and get to know guys and everything else. The good news is, in part, they've played a really tough schedule and their defense has gotten better. They just don't know each other at this point. Coaches the players and players the players. That is the one good team in the league that I think we can call them a good team, Sherrod, that does not have an identity. The good news is you can find one. The bad news is, why the hell don't you have one?
See, that's kind of my point. Giannis is your best player. Giannis, by all accounts, was a big part of them making a coaching change. So if that's in fact the case, then you should kind of have some idea of how you want to play, how you want to be as a team. Are you going to be a defense first team? Are you going to be a shot chucking team? Figure out who the hell you are. And it doesn't seem like they've done that. And I hate picking on Hall of Famers, guys who I know are going to be Hall of Famers.
Oh, who you putting on the screen?
But Dame Lillard, if we're being honest, if we're being real, when people talk about, oh yeah, he'll go to Milwaukee, they're much more of a defensive-minded team than what he was with in Portland, and he'll just figure it out. Fellas, ladies, people out there, the dude has been in the game for a decade and some change. Newsflash, he ain't changing. He may have changed zip codes, but he has not changed the code that he lives by as a player. He is a shot taker, shot maker, defense optional. Always has been, always will be. And there's none of Doc Rivers, Jedi mind tricks is going to change that. And that to me is why, if I had to look at the teams right now who are top 4 in each of the conference, and you said pick one team that you think can get bounced in the first round, I'm picking Milwaukee. I'm picking them because they are the one team that, to your point, Vinny, we don't really know who they are. We don't know what kind of team they're. They don't have an identity, and bringing a coach in midstream only muddies the waters even more. This was the issue that Adrian Griffin had when he first took the job. What kind of team are you going to have? And when it seemed like they were sort of kind of figuring out who they were, but Giannis and Dame wasn't feeling Adrian, and so they said, we need to make a change. And in comes Doc, and you're still having the same issues.
I've never heard of a team with a really good coach from like weeks into the season. Like, you start hearing these things like 2 or 3 weeks into the season, like Griffin ain't gonna last a year. I'm like, what the hell is going on there?
They're winning games and they're figuring this stuff out.
So I do think it was a lot there. I think it was beyond Giannis and Dame. I think a lot of people wanted him out, right? Okay, cool. But now the responsibility is on you. And Sherrod, you have intimate knowledge because you are in Boston with Drew Holiday, so you can see the Drew Holiday effect. And you've covered Doc Rivers in all his movies, good, bad, and indifferent, right? Part of Doc, I think, gets a bad rap, right? 3-1 Doc Rivers. Sherrod, you covered that Orlando.
I saw it up close when they were up 3-1 when he was in Orlando against the Pistons.
Who was that team's second best player?
I couldn't even tell you.
Exactly.
It was T-Mac and the T-Mac hats.
There was no, like, some of those 3-1 leads. You say, oh, he had no business losing. I tell you, he had no business being up 3-1 in some of those series, and
Right.
the law of averages just turned back around. But the thing about Doc that you cannot deny is sometimes those teams fall spectacularly, and that's where he might be the common denominator. And because Milwaukee fell spectacularly on its face this time last year, last April, to Miami, you have to wonder how much scar tissue was there with the team. You have to wonder how much scar tissue was there with Doc Rivers as an individual. And Dame Lillard, for the playoff moments that he's had, he's gotten to the conference finals one time in his career, and got swept out by the Golden State Warriors minus Kevin Durant in that series. So you have I still have a lot of questions. I think they can get there. I think they can get to the finals. I think they could. They waxed Milwaukee. I mean, they waxed Boston on a TNT game that had our buddy Joe Mazzulla running you and me out there in the second half because he was so fed up with his starters.
Yeah. When Joe took the entire crew and said, "Look, y'all done. Get in there." Yeah.
He basically said, y'all done for the day. Y'all done for
y'all trash tonight. I'm taking out the trash, so come on over here. Y'all done tonight.
But Milwaukee was the team that put the screws to them in that game. They can do that. The problem is you can't pinpoint their strengths in a way that you can rely on something from a night-to-night basis. If nothing else, Sherrod, you can pick out every team in every good team and say, this is what I know I can count on a nightly basis, and you can't do that with the Bucks, at least not to this point.
No, the Bucks, they to me, they're one of those teams that amplify one of your shortcomings, which is trust. Your trust issues are amplified when I see the Milwaukee Bucks, and now you're triggering my own distrust issues as well, which I'm not particularly proud of, but it's real. Because the more I think about a lot of these teams, the more I just don't trust them. So you and I, we're definitely on the same page.
Do you trust Doc?
What's that?
Do you trust Doc?
I trust Doc's mojo Jedi mind tricks can work. I don't know if they're going to work on this team. I see this team with a lot of old dogs who are like, we've kind of been there, done that. We got a chip too, Doc. You ain't the only one that come into the building with a chip. And so it's like, I'm not sure he can gain their trust to the point where they're willing to invest in the way that they need to. They know what they need to do, but I'm not sure they're willing to do it because there's a certain fat and happy dynamic that they got going on because they want a chip. Dame is the one who you would think would have an edge and would be willing to make the sacrifices and all, but Dame is pretty much playing Dame's game in Milwaukee. And I don't see him changing that at all. It's gotten him this far. It's made him a ton of money. But it also, in a lot of ways, shows that he's just not maybe ready to be a champion. Like he's a champion in life, maybe, but he ain't a champion on the court. I look at him as, to me, when Dame leaves, Trae Young will take that mantle. Trae Young will be like Dame Lillard 2.0, a really good player, all-star caliber talent, never win anything beyond just, fandom. That's it. So, I mean, Trae this year, 20 and 10 every night. His team.
But you don't think you don't think Dame. I mean, you don't think Trae ever impacts winning.
No, I don't. They had the one really good season where they got to the conference finals. But you go back and look at that series, they got so many fluky breaks along the way that you can't build around that
against Doc Rivers.
Right. So I like Trae as a player. I just don't think he's going to.
I'm with you on that. No, I'm definitely with you on. I don't know what Trae Young is if he's your best player. Right. I don't know how far you're going as a team if he's playing the way that he's playing, and you see all these numbers. Oh, he's the youngest with 25 and 10 assists, and all. I'm like, what the hell does that mean?
He's also got the worst record. His team has the worst record of all the All-Star players at the All-Star game. They're like 11 games below 500. They are he's the best player on the worst team represented at All-Star weekend. So take that for what it's worth.
That's a bar.
But
as the kids say, Sherrod, that's a bar.
Exactly. But listen, man, this was really good, Vinny. We keep going on. We're gonna have to have another podcast. We talk about our trust issues because we definitely each have some trust issues. Yours are a little deeper than mine, but that's again another day, another podcast. But Listen, Vincent Goodwill Jr., thank you so much for coming out, man.
I'm catching all these strays for All-Star Weekend. All-Star strays. That's what I'm catching.
Exactly. The ASS, you're getting All-Star strays. For sure. Vincent Goodwill, Yahoo Sports, thanks for coming on to the podcast, brother. I appreciate you as always, man.